It is the Jim and Terry Show, coming to you from the Hobbit Hole studio in Bobcaygeon. Still a solo podcast, one more day likely, until my good friend Jim comes and graces the Hobbit Hole with his presence, his conversation, his insights, and the glow of his spirituality. Let's put it that way, which the Hobbit Hole could stand for some illumination. Jim always complains he can't even find his way in, let alone his way out. And the spiders. Oh, scary stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about Anne Applebaum. Anne Applebaum, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and historian. She's an American, but I think she just recently took out citizenship in Poland, which makes sense because her specialty is Eastern European history, especially during the Soviet Union period. And I think she's talking specifically about the rise of authoritarianism in Eastern Europe pre-World War II, and then looking at Putin's power grab after we thought the wall was coming down in East Germany, and then Putin comes in and starts making things resemble the old Soviet Union again. Anne Applebaum, you can look her up. She's still writing lots of books. One that I think I might pick up to go with my Madeleine Albright book on fascism is called, where did I see it? Authoritarian Inc., I think is what it's called. And she has got a number of books, Red Famine, how they starved the Ukrainians. That was terrible. More Ukrainians died, I think, there. So they've got an axe to grind in this war with Russia. Russia grabbing Ukraine, forget it. This is not going to go well. Gulag is another book that she's written. Autocracy, Inc., that's the one. Gulag, history of the Gulag. Twilight of Democracy. Wow. And she has been involved in writing, I think, for a number of movies and documentaries on these things. She's currently a contributor to The Atlantic magazine. But my interest is specifically on an article that I think she wrote, and is it on her Substack? It's called Open Letters from Anne Applebaum, and it's one I received in my inbox. I subscribe to her writings, liking what she's been writing and following her career. Putin's war comes home. Even Muscovites feel it now. Subtitle: 4 years ago, President Vladimir Putin offered Moscow and its business elites a de facto deal. Support my war in Ukraine, and in exchange, you won't have to think about it. In the past week, that deal was broken. And the photograph is of the most recent May Day parade in Moscow, which is very interesting because very early on in the article, she has an excerpt from the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. Decree of the president of Ukraine on the conduct of a parade in the city of Moscow, taking into account numerous requests and with the humanitarian purpose outlined during the negotiations with the American side on May the 8th. And I think that was involving Trump, who begged and pleaded for some kind of deal where Ukraine would vow not to run any drone operations in the city of Moscow or interfere in some way with the parade. I think Putin was scared to death, but here's what Zelensky published. For the duration of the parade from 10 o'clock a.m. Kyiv time on May the 9th, 2026, and the territorial square of the Red Square is to be excluded from the deployment plan for Ukrainian weaponry, and he gives the coordinates for the exclusion zone. He promises anything within these coordinates will not be attacked, and that to me is not strength but weakness. But that's not my real point, and I'll get back to Anne Applebaum's article in The Atlantic. It's not on her Substack, or it may be in both places, I don't know. But to me, it's the question that I've been working on, which is, why do evangelicals tend to believe that Putin is good and Putin represents hope for Christianity and faith? It always seemed to be a problem for me to try to get my head around. The same people who support Trump is my president, Jesus is my savior, are the same people who say that Putin needs to win this war. Putin is protecting Christian values when he attacks LGBTQ communities in his hosting of the Sochi Olympics. That was supposed to be a good thing, cleaning up the city of Sochi for the international cameras. What? Yeah, so I'm kind of intrigued by evangelicals in the United States, maybe the same group, pastors for Trump, who might support Putin and say Putin's winning. In fact, I asked that question point blank to someone who I know, and I said point blank, who would you believe, Zelensky or Putin? And the answer was an assured Putin. What? I couldn't believe it. I was so gobsmacked and surprised that that was the answer. So if in your worldview you find a place where Putin is good for Christian belief and promoting Christian values, and you find a worldview in which Trump represents godliness, goodness, truth, justice in the American way, then there is swampland in Florida somewhere near Mar-a-Lago for you. And I hope, not that I say this facetiously, I hope global warming has a result that buries Trump's golf course and property at Mar-a-Lago under a foot of water. That's my hope of justice. It looks like climate change reaching the shores of Mar-a-Lago. Anyway, that's my perplexing question, is why do evangelicals, and this is not just in the United States, but primarily there, believe that Putin is like Trump, God's man, wreaking havoc upon the evil. The evil what? The evil of fascism. Apparently Zelensky's a Nazi. Well, you know, in one of the models of left versus right spectrum analysis, it isn't to align with a spectrum on each end, but it's a circle. The more you go towards the extremes of the right or the extremes of the left, the more their tactics and language resemble each other. And maybe that's what we see in Putin, an avowed communist, and we see in Trump, an avowed conservative. Their tactics look the same. Build the statues, take control, reward the oligarchs or broligarchs, take control of the main industries of the state and make sure you get money from everything. Everything is transactional. There is no public policy. There is no thought of the general public. There is just the will of da-na-na-na-na-na-na leader. Sorry, that's a theme song from The Simpsons, an episode that I really enjoyed. So how is it that people come to confuse right and goodness with evil? I don't know, except brainwashing seems to be it. And if you stay in your silos of information too long, you eat, think, wash, dress the same language, the same buzzwords, the same jargon, and you end up thinking the same thing. Evangelicals believing that Putin is God's man is the same as evangelicals praying for Trump's golden statue. But I want to get back now to Anne Applebaum's Putin's War Comes Home, because Zelensky had all the cards. I hate to make fun of Trump, but Zelensky, who was told to dress with a tie for his meeting with the president. Zelensky, who went to the Saudi, Qatari, Arab Emirates and offered drone technology for his own fundraising, for his own military, for his own war against Russia. Zelensky has all the cards on the May parade in Moscow. Trump begged for Zelensky to come up with a deal, a compromise where he wouldn't attack Moscow. Well, the cards are drones, and I've already had a podcast about that. And the technology is the new way of conducting war. So gone are the $1 million missiles. Gone are the $500,000 refills of Patriots. Gone are the tech that requires so much sophistication that only the U.S. can do it. Now Europe is looking at their own infrastructure, and I hate to say it, but it's money spent on weapons, and I don't like that idea. But if you're going to do it, give people jobs, pay them fair wages, and let them pay taxes. The SAFE program of the EU is one that Canada has been invited to participate in. So we're shifting. Everybody's shifting. And I have a blog that I wrote that we teach others how to treat us. America, Europe, and the world have been watching. So the unreliability of the United States, the swings of left to right, and the swings of up and down, who's in charge, is there no consistency? That is a problem, and we're all watching. Something unusual is happening in Russia, says Ann Applebaum. I wonder, is it the end? Stay tuned, The Jim and Terry Show. Bye-bye for now.
It's complicated, this relationship I have with my morning coffee. It's from the way that I